Dave.
Ian.
And hello, Steve.
Hello, Dave. Hello, Ian.
Now, I just want to start off by saying that, of course, Apex adjacent, blah, 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 thus and so. We have endless resources on this podcast. Not a lot of people know this.
This is news to me.
You've been acquired by a private equity?
Yep. We have a bottomless pit of resources to throw at any tiny problem that comes up. And so when something comes up on the show and we need an expert, we fly them in. We fly them right in.
Uh-huh.
We had a moment on the show last week where we didn't know the answer to something. And so we were like, you know what? We know the man who knows the answer.
Okay.
And now he sits here.
Okay.
Just ask and you shall receive. Just writing checks.
Certified expert. I've got at least 5 years of graduate school under my belt, so I think we were good. Yeah.
And you don't know what we're talking about yet.
The only bottomless pit I'm familiar with is the one inside me.
Despair. Despair is the one. Yes.
Yeah. So
we're going to pay you in despair is what we're saying. Excellent.
Our problems are now your problems. That's how the show works. Okay. So last week, Steve, thank you for joining us. Yes. So
Glad to be in the pillow fort. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So last week, Ian and I stumbled upon a thing that we never knew existed in the automotive space.
Okay.
And we want to know if this is new. I think we're late to the game because
I think so.
Jalopnik did something about it in 2021, maybe. Yeah. But I'll just pull up a browser and we can take a look. Okay. So Ian, it was...
This isn't like a Goetze
No,
issue.
I promise we are not showing you.
That is someone else's bit. I found this on the internet.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh boy. I was explaining to my wife like what rotten.com was back in the day.
Oh God. No.
Early internet was wild.
Right.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. So Ian, it was a Ford F-250
Tropicala. Tropiclassic. That's it.
Have you seen any vehicles like this in the past? Are you familiar with these things? Because, oh God, my computer is so slow.
So it's a thing in Brazil where they want a diesel, and I don't know if pickup trucks are like a special class of vehicle or something, and to get around tax exemptions or something. But they have these people who convert pickup trucks to sedans.
Never seen this ever before.
It is wild
That
looking.
is totally crazy.
And there's a picture. David found one. It was like a picture.
And these
of
are
a
like
street
Super
parked
Duty.
one.
This is like a Super Duty pickup.
Yes, it's an F-250 Super Duty.
Huh.
Yeah.
But it has Ford Focus taillights.
I
Right.
see that. Like second gen.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a little bit of Ford 500 in there, I think, as well.
They went ahead and did a new grill.
Right. Like if it was mercuryified.
Right.
Yeah. But apparently this company...
It looks like somebody left a Volvo 240 at the bottom of a lake for about 5 years.
Right. And there's something
just bloated.
Really unsettling about the proportions of the wheels and the rest of the way the vehicle is coming together. Those mirrors sticking out. It's so strange.
It's very weird.
It's very cartoonish.
Yes. Well, I think David found one on Facebook Marketplace or something. And the top comment was that it looked like a Grand Theft Auto car. And it really does, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this company...
Where it looks kind of familiar, but it's not.
Right.
Sort of. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, but there's a company that makes it. Tropical Cabines?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have some heritage models here, like a 90s Blazer.
Wow.
Yeah, here you go.
So I guess you get that body on frame capability of a solid axle pickup, but the panache and luxury of a sedan.
Yes.
Panache. Of all the words, it's when you see somebody searching for a word and you kind of autocomplete, maybe this is what they're thinking. Panache was not in my top 100.
But look at the
predictions.
side graphics. I mean, this is well executed. I mean, there's a vision here, and they went for it.
Right.
Right.
They're shooting their shot.
Right.
Yeah. I gotta think that there's some sort of like tax thing or something.
Yeah, I wonder.
driving
Right?
this, right?
Yeah.
Like the classification of pickup truck must mean a thing,
Right.
and sedan means another thing. So there's a motivation to convert it to sedan. There has to be.
So
Yeah.
are they starting with like crew cab, like 4-door pickups, or are
Yeah.
they like adding the rear doors?
No, I think in the top of this Jalopnik article, like the first or second paragraph, it talks a little bit about what so this is the
Look at the rear seat room.
well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You think, go figure. Yeah. It turns out an F-250 has a lot of room. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's go up a little bit more.
So you go up a little bit more.
So sure, so those look like standard like pickup doors, but
Yes.
obviously they've pushed the rear seats backwards into,
Right,
into
to fit
where
into this.
into where the
Yeah.
bed used to be, right?
Right.
Got
Yeah.
this massive trunk.
I think
for
it
all the
says
bodies.
that everything from the front doors forward is just like stock F-250, and then they just fuck with it from the
Right.
rear doors back.
Right.
From the
And then
A-pillar
you get
back.
like a V10 sedan, right?
yeah. Well, I think it's the 4-cylinder diesel in here.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Like rest of the world market there.
Yeah,
right,
but
right.
I think you could upgrade to the straight six.
Right. But like a Power Stroke V10 sedan like this.
Right.
Like, that would be hilarious.
That would be pretty cool.
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder if you could import this.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
those
it's just
Older
an
than 25 years,
F-250.
right?
Yeah, those sweet ones down
Was
at
it
the bottom. Like,
2007, I think. Right?
yeah, that was definitely like a 90s Ford Ranger,
Oh, yeah.
right? Yeah, this one up here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
those
that's
look importable.
Yeah. Or
So
a
you
Mazda
you
beach
coyote
back.
swap that? What do you do with that?
Show up to Radwood. Yeah. That would be,
Oh, yeah. Right? Put it on some tri-spokes till I die spokes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So somebody that has had far more like truck experience, like off-road vehicle experience, this is new to you.
Brand new stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, thanks for coming down. Back off to Montana. You
Yeah.
go.
All right. Well, I'll go get back on the Lear and
Money well spent.
You put him on the Lear? Yeah.
Well, the Gulfstream was in the shop, so you know.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. All right. Ian. I'm just now learning. I've got to find the Excel spreadsheet where you're keeping track of these expenses.
Oh, keep track? Oh, that's not good.
Okay.
We'll talk later.
Yeah. All right. So, So, Steve, you came into Colorado. We suckered you into the blanket fort. Yeah.
Yes.
Returning guest returning friend of the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Karting buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, went karting with you guys last summer. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite a workout, interestingly enough. Like I was pretty sore the next day. Which was surprising.
Yeah.
But-
Had you karted like that before?
no, never.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, never
Yeah.
been on like a real karting track ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is that I think that surprises a lot of people. Like we were just talking about this, like the other week, but like I took coworkers to karting when we were in Las Vegas, and like, I've had this reaction a couple of times where they're like, 8 minutes, like that's all you get. You're like for $30 is 8 minutes, and you're like, yeah, I promise, like you're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
And they're like, pfft. And then they get out and they're like, I can't move my hands.
Yeah. You tell them to bring gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They look at you funny. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like I got to do those like neck workouts the F1 drivers do, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have
Yeah,
just
it's real-
beaten you with a
real
tennis
stuff.
racket to get you ready for it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bruised a rib a couple times ago when
Wow.
we went. Like
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what
Every
happened.
now and then there's a bolt that'll work its way from the seat that it'll stand a little bit proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember what it was. I got sideways a little bit because I was going through traffic and somebody, or I wasn't
I
sideways.
like that you're passing people sideways.
Well, no.
First of all,
I was sideways relative to the traffic, I should say. I did the thing where I passed somebody and I didn't think like, oh, they're definitely going to try to dive bomb me the next corner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went around the corner and they, of course, T-boned me. Like, they were not in the right place. They were not on the line at all. They were on a line, but it was going off the track. And I was there to stop them. and it shoved the seat into my rib, and it hurt for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Rib injuries suck.
And then you can't complain about it because you're like, I hurt myself go karting.
Right. Yeah. But I had one heat with a particularly like tail happy cart, and I kept getting like flagged because I was just El Dorito like the whole lap. It's like not my fault. I'm trying to hit my braking points, but instead I'm just opposite locking like in every corner. And they're like, you can't do that.
Yeah. I want to see them drive this thing straight.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But
Yeah, the differences between the cart setups is always surprising too.
I was surprised. Yeah. I was really surprised. And also even just making very small adjustments, like in terms of like where the seat is, right? It seems like very, very tiny adjustments made a big difference in how it felt handled. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes if I have a cart that's way too loose like that, like I usually like to have I like a pointy cart. Like I like a loose rear. I like a loose rear,
Oh boy.
The best part about recording
in front of the guests.
The best part about recording in person is that I can really see the disappointment on Dave's face.
That's why I keep you virtual, man. Yeah, I need that layer of obfuscation. I need some latency between you and I. Emotionally.
I need at least 10 milliseconds, please. But yeah, so if something's like way too tail happy, I'll move the seat back a click or two.
Right. Yeah, get a little weight on that back axle. Yeah.
But
yeah, it was eye-opening. It was really interesting and super fun. Yeah.
You used to have a Mini Cooper, right?
Yeah, an R53.
Yeah.
For quite a while. Did a lot of autocross, some track days. It was kind of my race car, kind of like the Nugget.
Sure.
I commuted in it a little bit, but it was mostly like for fun.
Now, I'm getting the inkling that you're being humble about your autocrossing experience. Didn't you do very well? Did you win or rank very well in regional events?
I'm a division champ, but kind of a big fish, small pond, like up in Montana, right where I live.
Still?
Yeah. So D stock.
Okay.
Yeah, and did quite a few events over in Washington. It was a much bigger pool of folks, but autocross for a long time, and then it just kind of faded away. Mostly, I sold the car before my wife and I moved overseas for a little while, so that kind of shut down my racing career for a while. But and when I got back to Montana and we moved back to the United States, I got more into rallycross. So I kind of picked that up instead, which has been really fun. I've been doing that kind of inconsistently over the last few years. Kind of depends on my work schedule and that kind of stuff. But I really enjoy the rallycross. It's just a totally different, situation. I've always, been sort of a closet rally driver.
Right.
It's just one of my favorite things. So yeah.
I mean, we're all close to the same age. Was Speed TV as influential in all the the golden era of rally? Right?
Yeah, I really got into it in the tail end of the 90s and the early 2000s.
Same, so much.
Yeah, and they were doing the the coverage of all the rallies, all the WRC stuff.
It's still the best TV coverage of rally I've ever seen.
Hands down.
Hands down. Was that. And I don't understand why it sucks so bad now.
Right. It should be nothing but better. Yeah. Right.
But that was so much better. It must have just taken tremendous amounts of resources to do it that way.
Yeah. I think so. Right. And it was just a great era too. There's just all the personalities and the different cars and the different drivers. And there was a lot of parody. And then, once Sebastian Loeb kind of hit the scene, obviously the whole vibe of WRC changed, and they changed all the rules for the cars and stuff. And it just homogenized everything. And, sort of those late 90s, early 2000s, rally hero cars are just...
There's still kind of an arms race going on between the manufacturers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Petter Solberg showing up and being the young kid. Who everyone was like, what?
Right.
Yeah. And identifiable as oh, that's a Ford Focus.
Yeah.
That's, that's an Impreza WRX. That's
a 206.
Exactly. Right. Whereas obviously, the newer cars, they're still based on production models, but they're a lot further away.
Right.
Right. from them, from the actual production models. But
Yeah, because Sebastian Loeb has returned, I think, right?
so he's not doing WRC, but he's been doing Dakkar.
Oh,
So he's been doing
right.
like rally raid stuff.
Yeah.
And he had a rough Dakkar this year.
Oh,
really?
He and Carlos Sainz actually both have been doing Dakkar.
Oh, wow.
Carlos Sainz Senior.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah.
And they both crashed out like pretty
Oh,
early.
did he?
Yeah, pretty early in the race this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
But
Yeah.
So
Man.
and Sebastian's been doing it for a while, but he's just never been able to like go
crack
over the top.
Dakkar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a different beast. It's a totally different.
Well, what is the different? I've always wondered that about like Baja and Dakkar, like how that skill set is so different than stage rally, right? Because like it seems like it would be pretty transferable, but I don't think there's many WRC drivers that have great success in Dakkar, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. Historically, I don't think that's the case. And I think part of it is just the terrain and the course, and then the way it's run. Like you're just on your own,
Right.
You have
like free
no
for all,
support,
right?
at all.
Right.
Like in a rally raid context or Dakar, like the way you do in a WRC. In a WRC, the stages are pretty well controlled and they're not that long, but you might have a, whatever, 200-mile stage in a rally raid, right? Just like literally driving through the landscape. It's not even on roads, right? You're just crashing through sand dunes and over rocks and
no pace notes. Like how could you pace note that?
Right. So you have nav, right? So you can follow a course, but it's, pretty open. It's like your interpretation of it. People get lost all the time, right? And, it's just so hard in the vehicles. And I think it's just a kind of a different.
I wonder if it's kind of like going from like time attack to like endurance racing, where like stage rally probably more encourages you to get the most out of the car at any one time.
Yes, I think so.
And Dakar is like, you have to make this shit last.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you can't break it in the first 3 miles.
And there are sections of like a Dakar style rally where like you're not allowed to like have any crew maintenance, right? You're just like all parc ferme and like anything that you need to fix in the car, like the drivers have to do it, right? It's kind of a different beast. The cool thing is looking at this last year. So there's this like historic class in the Dakar, and it's not that expensive to like enter the event. It's like $25,000. It's like not that expensive.
But you got to get there. Then you've got to like
survive. It's all inclusive, right? So they will ship your car like from not from around the world, but from Europe. They'll ship your car from Europe to Saudi. They'll give you a whole bunch of different like stuff to like make sure you're set, for the race, and you have to have your own support crew and like spares and so on and so forth. But all the overnight stuff and food and so on, it's all taken care of. So it's like in relative terms for like a world class like motor racing event, it's not that all that like unattainable, right?
That starts to make a little more sense, right?
Right.
For like a race team that has built a vehicle capable of doing that,
right?
Yeah,
something like that is way more in reach, right?
For 10 people to have a once in a lifetime,
right?
Exactly. Split up the cost, and like. There's all these often, of course, I've been looking at this stuff. There's, cars for sale, right? So like people who've like done it a couple years or whatever, and they're done, like, 1992, like Range Rover, like Dakar truck, $8,000 or whatever, right? With spares, right? And,
oh my God.
because it's always cheaper to buy a race car than it is to like build one, right? And so what, you go to like Dune Bash in Saudi Arabia for 2 weeks.
I mean, hell yeah, that sounds awesome.
Right? Yeah. Can we find like an old Iron Man Ivan Stewart stadium truck?
Just show the stadium truck.
Yeah, just like real tight racing suits. Like that. Yeah.
Is it a problem that my gas tank is 5 gallons?
Right. Yeah. Like a class 11 Beetle, like a Baja Beetle, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to do that, let's say that you have a group that has funding together and you're going to do that, what do you shop for? What would you want to do it in? And would you want to drive, or would you want to would you want to be a passenger?
Oh yeah, I'd want to drive for sure.
You want to drive,
yeah. But it would be fun to nav too. I think it would be an interesting challenge because it's really hard. Like the navigation aspects of those events are really, really difficult. So that would be kind of a fun challenge. But I think it would just be also really like you just get beat up. I think as a navigator, right?
You want to hire a navigator, I think, right? You want to hire
someone who
or someone who's done it before, right?
Yeah.
You want that seems like one you want to let's add another expense line for someone's time.
Yeah.
For who knows who's not going to make me drive into the desert never to be seen again.
It's like when you're watching a movie with your wife, right? And you're like, well, who's that guy? And they're like, I don't know. I'm watching the same movie you are. You and your nav person, yes, it's all new to me too. I don't know.
You have all of the information that I do.
Yeah. But it's you run a very similar track to what the you've seen those giant the rally raid trucks, right?
Those are so crazy.
Then the prototype cars and stuff, and the bikes, right?
The bikes
those guys are just
fucking bonkers,
nuts, right?
Yeah.
Because if you fall off in some of those sections,
you're dead.
There's nobody coming for you.
Yeah, they have to bring the helicopters. It's it's crazy, and there's always people who crash out, and the other competitors have to stop and help them because their neck is broken or whatever.
No, thank you.
This is not like Great British Bake Off where somebody's helping somebody finish a scone. The consequences are a little bit higher. This is great. Wow. Yeah.
But I had no idea it was sort of open to the public. You just submit your thing, and this year there was over 100 competitors in the historic class. And and people who were really set up had a lot of Audi brought a bunch of historic Audis, and stuff.
Okay.
So there's one guy with a Land Rover Defender and two other people helping him, okay. That was it, Right. So in the whole gamut, there's one, it's a double engine Citroen de Chevaux, two engines in it. And they were having to do some repairs or something to it. And in one of the, in between the stages, and it was driveline repairs, and they just tipped it. They just tipped it on its side. It was just tipped over. They were working on the chassis underneath, and they just picked it up and put it back. It's really cool.
Yeah. I don't need a lift in my garage. I just need the right car and two swole dudes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be the weirdest Craigslist post ever. Trying to hire those guys.
Wanted.
No weird stuff.
Two meaty men. Let me explain.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of racing, have you gotten your call from Zach Brown yet?
No, I haven't.
Because I figured by now you'd be the McLaren reserve driver, which seems like the greatest gig in F1, frankly.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you get to drive an F1 car around
with no stakes.
No stakes because the two best drivers on the grid. Yeah. Zach Brown is the CEO of McLaren.
I was going to say he wrote a song, right? He has a band.
Have we left Dave on the side of the road here? Damn.
Yeah. Zach Brown is the CEO of McLaren Racing.
Okay.
And so he was referencing the fact that I did the McLaren thing in Las Vegas.
That's right. Yeah.
No, I did get a thing that my prize pack shipped.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, excellent.
And I haven't been thinking about every day since then why I didn't go back and try to beat that other time.
Right. Or just booking a work trip to Vegas.
I was going to say, just hop on an Allegiant flight or whatever. And,
just a Frontier flight for $100.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Just show up and get on the next one back home.
That's worth it to play Assetto Corsa. It's a $500 trip to play Assetto Corsa for an hour.
Yeah, that wouldn't look weird to TSA at all. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Put your luggage on the belt, sir. Oh, no luggage.
Just chapstick.
None required.
Okay, all
Just
right.
got your sim wheel with you. Like that's it.
Step aside, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to Vegas without any luggage. You have a problem. Not the one you think.
Right.
It's a different one.
Yeah. Well, Ian, I'm looking forward to it. To you becoming this McLaren backup driver.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll be terrible at it. They'd have to get me an extra wide seat. Yeah. I don't think I would fit in that F1 car.
Yeah. You and me both, buddy.
Well, for different reasons. Different dimensions.
I don't know, man. Yeah. My wife's made peanut brittle today. So, Yeah. Right? Yeah. Her therapy of handling stress with baking.
But also your head would be this far ahead, above the halo. Right? Which would be pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Well,
I think the tallest F1 driver is like Esteban Ocon, I think.
Is it, or George Russell? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, one of those two guys. But I think they're like 5'11", and they look huge. There might be one guy who's 6'1".
Yeah, maybe, is it George Russell or is it Pierre Gasly? I don't know. One of them is like 6 feet or something like that.
And he looks like a giant.
Yeah, especially like when you got like Fernando Alonso and Yuki walking around.
Yeah,
right?
Yuki's like 5'5".
Yeah, he's small.
They all are
They're all
kind of my
small.
height.
Yeah,
they're all like 5'7" to 5'9" sort of range.
Yeah.
That's why I need to be in a Dakkar truck,
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Headroom for days.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Just one of those giant, like, earth fuckers. Like, those things look so imposing.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't. Okay, so we didn't actually answer the question though. So, what would you want to drive if you could do any historic thing? What would you want to do?
Or
what era?
I would think like I would love to do just like a mid 70s Beetle, just like or a Super Beetle. Yeah, that's because I grew up driving Beetles and like there's always.
Do people still run Beetles in the Dakkar?
I don't know. That's a good question. I do know there's still a lot of desert racing classes for Beetles, like in Baja. Those like score events. Yeah. So like Class 11 is the one. Yeah, he got some
like
up
something
there.
like that.
Yeah. That's like a Class 11 Beetle.
Oh god, I locked my screen.
Good job.
What's my password, Ian?
But they're pretty brutal. They've got like fairly. That may not be a Class 11, but it's something similar. That's a Dakkar. That one says Dakkar. Yeah.
Okay.
The rules are a little bit looser for like Dakkar historics than they are for like score racing or like Baja racing. A lot of the like Beetle classes for Baja you can't do many modifications. It's like 1600cc motor, like single carburetor, like you're not allowed to have like huge suspension upgrades or anything like that. Wow. It's just like a roll cage and a Beetle. And so it's pretty tough. Like it's the people who race those classes you get beat up.
Okay.
Because it's just, 1930s.
Right.
Suspension technology, and
you are the leaf spring.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know, just my history with air-cooled Volkswagens makes me think like, that's what I'd want to do.
Okay.
But money no object to be like a Dakkar 911 or a 959 or something like that, right? But I was surprised this year at Dakkar, a lot of Defenders.
That's what I thought you were going to. I thought you were going to say
a lot of Range Rovers, and I would totally do a Defender. That'd be fun.
Okay,
I got one right there. Just
ship
that over.
Slap a turbo on it.
Yeah, it's already got one.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh, that's right. Yeah, a bigger turbo.
Yeah. So, like, how long is the race? Like, duration of time?
About 2 weeks. I think it's exactly 2 weeks, actually.
Okay.
And it's hundreds and hundreds of miles.
Right. Yeah. Like, I'm thinking about, like, being confined in a vehicle with Ian for that amount of time and how nuts he would go.
Well, and you do it in stages too, right? So, like, there's multiple drivers typically, right?
It kind of depends on, like, which class you're running and stuff. But I think most of the classes have, like, a driver and a navigator. And I don't know if you can rotate them through or not.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Oh, okay.
It's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna think you'd want the big truck so you could like go in the back and get away from me for a little bit when I was on a taffy bender. You're just like go straight.
The big trucks, their driver teams are 3 people.
Oh,
so they have like a driver, a navigator, and like a mechanic or something. So they have like 3 people in the cabs,
like an engineer, like an airplane,
right?
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't think I would enjoy the big truck.
Really?
Like the physics of like big trucks, I don't enjoy them. Like even like when I was driving the RV, it gave me just like flashbacks to driving deuce and a halfs.
Oh, that's
just
right.
Sure.
All the military vehicles. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Can you imagine just like flying over the crest of dunes, in those things?
Yeah. I mean, I've done some slightly reckless things in a deuce and a half before, but
anybody in the military has. You have to, right?
Yes, but it just feels so like strange to do anything quickly that high off the ground. Okay. It feels so weird. I'm sure you get used to it, but like. Oh man, I don't know. That looks so sketchy to me.
It looks very sketchy. I agree.
I think that's the sketchiest looking class of the Dakkar to me, even more so than the bikes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you are someone who wants to be as low as possible.
Yeah.
In any given vehicle, usually.
Yeah. Well,
right?
This just seems like hubris, right? Like you're clearly doing something that's not intended.
Right. You're hammering in a nail with a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks crazy. I think the sweet spot is like the stadium truck sort of setup.
Right. Okay.
Like the long suspension travel, but still like lowered truck.
Like just kind of lower and wide. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's more of like a Baja thing, right? Than it is a Dakar thing.
But those would rip.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about a Rolls Royce? Can we get like a vintage?
You mean like a 70s cheap Rolls Royce?
Spur or something? Yeah.
I mean, anything is a good off-road car if you...
There we go.
Yeah, look, this one's getting air, Ian. Like we could do this.
I mean, that looks awesome. Yeah, I want to do that.
Right? I want to go to there.
I want to put an LS in one of those and just send it over some dunes. Sure.
Right? Yeah. I'll sit in the back seat and make you coffee and tell you to keep driving straight.
That'd be the world's first Dakkar navigator from the back seat.
Champagne.
Not now. I'm playing Balatro.
So your 5-point harness doesn't work if your seat reclines.
Yes.
You cannot pass tech with this much leather and wood.
The fire extinguisher just dispenses caviar.
Well, this is something I love about rallycross. It's like any car can be a rally car,
right?
When it comes down to it.
Okay.
It's pretty democratic in terms of
of intrigue.
Right.
There's better and worse decisions.
Yeah, of course.
But
any car is a rally car if you believe in yourself.
Exactly.
Enough.
Yeah, totally. One of the fastest guys that kind of race in the region that I'm in. He's got like that last generation of Ford Taurus SHO.
Oh yeah, the curvy one.
Yeah, with the all-wheel drive.
The V8.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Drive.
That's a V6.
It's an EcoBoost maybe.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
EcoBoost.
yeah.
Okay,
And it's fast as hell. And he bought it like it was totaled, right? It was like, and he like whatever pulled the frame straight and it was fine mechanically, and he just turned it into a race car. Like
that
one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, those are fast as shit. When they're set
it
up
rips.
Right.
It totally rips.
Yeah.
Well, and because they're heavy, I think stock. So I'm guessing you can pull a ton of weight out of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And so like the front end is all messed up. He's just got like aluminum panels, just like riveted to it. It doesn't have any headlights anymore or anything. Like it's a pure like race car.
It's long though for
they're big cars.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
Yeah,
they're pretty big. But the all-wheel drive system works really well. Whatever kind of system it is. But it's really fast.
Wow. Okay.
That's kind of genius. I mean, it is like it's an automatic transmission. Mm-hmm. It's a slush box.
Yep.
And it is big and heavy. But I guess I wonder how much weight he got out of it.
Right.
I'm guessing,
a lot.
I'm guessing you can get 1,200 pounds out of it, right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh yeah. Right? Yeah.
With just interior.
Yeah, right.
What kind of like max speeds do you see on the courses that you're familiar with?
That's a good question. So the big course we run, which is built on a private ranch that's like a little bit west of Great Falls, Montana, and it was developed. The race course was developed out of a old motocross course.
Sweet.
So a number of years ago, the ranch changed hands, and the new owners were like really like motorsports oriented people. So they expanded the motocross course, and they like made it more for rally. So it's like a dedicated rally stage essentially, and it's about 1.5 minutes. And they've been slowly like expanding it. So we've got like multiple types of loops now. So we can change up the course, like even during the course of a day, like if it starts to get really rutted or, like kind of it's throwing up rocks or whatever, we can change the course.
That's cool.
And it works really well. And it's actually really interesting. They had this like motocross connection. Do you guys remember the Travis Pastrana Gymkhana from Maryland, the one in Baltimore?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so they built a replica basically of the really big jump that he did in that Gymkhana at this ranch. And as a way for Travis Pastrana to practice. So he brought his car out to Montana and then just like jumped over this giant ramp, like 1 million times to like practice the speed and the pitch and all the rest of it before they did the filming in Baltimore.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's a pretty sophisticated like operation they've got out there.
Yeah.
And it's like just like really fortunate to like have that kind of venue, to do the racing. And so like the faster cars, like we got some like turbo Subarus and people who've like really prepped, and got a lot of folks from other parts of the Pacific Northwest who bring their cars in who are doing like stage rallies. Oftentimes we get people with like stage rally cars who are like really prepped and super fast.
Sure.
So yeah, 65, 70 miles an hour is not unusual for like the really like heavily prepped cars. My cars, not so much, right?
Sure.
My first rally cross car was a 1999 Honda CRV. It's like a first gen CRV.
Oh, interesting.
And I had like a 1-inch drop on it, so it was a little bit lower. So it wasn't quite as tippy, but not manual like CRVs. It's great. It's super fun.
I can
really
see that
slow,
working, like,
really slow, but like all-wheel drive and and super cheap, right? Just beat on it.
Oh God,
like
parts are everywhere.
easy to like maintain and everything.
If it breaks, you just go steal another one.
Yeah, there was one event I was at where the catalytic converter gave up. It just was clogged, and I was like, I didn't have any power. I couldn't figure out why. So I finally figured it out, and some guy just had a hacksaw, so I just went into there and like hacksawed out the catalytic converter, and then it was really, really loud. It's the other advantage of being like on a private property.
Right. Yeah.
Right, it doesn't really matter. But then, whatever. I drove into town the next day and went to an exhaust shop, and they just welded in a piece a piece of pipe, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And then my current is it's a Volvo V40 wagon.
Hell yes.
Nice.
And but I also just drive that randomly, just as a pseudo daily. But
is that an automatic?
Yeah, it's an automatic. Yeah,
how does that do with? Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't think you get that with. But how does that do in rallycross? Are you just like normally like can you just like leave it in low and you're just in second gear the whole time?
Yeah, generally is second gear. And this Volvo like it shifts between like first and second when it's in second gear, so you can kick it down. Right? Like when you hit like really floor it, it'll kick down, and it works pretty well. Yeah,
nice.
That's awesome. But
I've always wanted to try rallycross, and it just always seemed like I'm gonna really break something.
Right.
Yeah, it does. It does break cars. Especially it kind of depends on the the terrain that the track is on.
Sure.
What we have in Montana, it's a lot of rocks. Like a lot of rocks kind of kick up out of the. Out of the dirt. But honestly, the biggest damage that people sustain often is just like plastic like body panels sometimes, right, on like more modern cars. But the other big one is like D-beads. So particularly on front wheel drive cars, because you get a lot of different opposing forces on those front wheels. And you want to like have the tire pressure low enough that you got like good, nice traction. Right. But you want them pumped up enough the tire stays on the wheel. So you're always kind of on this like edge of, you know, and I've had a number of DBs and it's just like, you know, you're just pushing it too hard and, you know, and it just like pops off the rim.
Picture my Fiat 500 Abarth with like legit off-road bead locks on it.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Wheels that weigh just as much as the car.
Yeah.
So is the format, do they ever have wheel-to-wheel formats as well? Or is it all like time trial style, like autocross style?
Yeah, so it's autocross style. And that's mostly because it's sanctioned and run by the local SCCA group.
Right, okay.
So it's SCCA Rallycross, and it's a particular set of rules. And it's run, if you're familiar with autocross, it's identical. You know, if you're not racing, you're out on the course. You know,
shagging cones.
Exactly.
Moving huge rocks that get
totally.
Yeah.
Doing course maintenance. That kind of thing. But it's the same format. But the regs are much thinner. The rule book is much thinner than autocross. So the categories are very sort of simple. You know, it's front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all wheel drive. And then, you know, there's a couple of distinctions under those, but not much. So you don't have to worry about like little modifications that like take you from one class to another in autocross. Right. Or that kind of like weird, you know, little things you got to know about in a 150 page, you know, regs.
Right. Like I'm not supposed to have a turbo blanket on my car. Like, that puts like that instantly like rules me out of like everything. Right. Yeah. Like it's a piece of fiberglass. Right.
Well, and that's the thing with my car too, is I had looked at doing autocross with my car, but it puts the modifications that I have to my car, which are fairly mild, I think, like put me into like a crazy class.
Right.
It's like I'd be in with like the GTRs and stuff.
Right. And me.
And you. Yeah. But that's BMW, but SCCA is like, it's crazy because I have a different Haldex controller than stock.
Oh, yeah.
It puts me into like this insane class.
Right.
And it's like a really mild modification. Like it basically just says like if you lift off the throttle, it doesn't disengage the rear. That's it. That's all it does.
Right.
But because it's a modified, because if it's a modified drive line, it puts me into like this insane class.
Yeah. And there's just not those little fine grained distinctions in the classes in rallycross. So you see all different kinds of people in their cars, you know, Teslas and new Beetles and, Civic, you know, wagons, all wheel drive Civic wagons.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But obviously like Subarus kind of dominate.
Sure.
You know, but yeah, it's a really good time. I like it. I like it more than autocross. And in some ways, part of that is the venue. Like the track is so much fun, right? It's like it's built for rallycross, you know, like specifically.
You're not borrowing a parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really, and then usually the entries are fewer. So you get a lot of track time. You get a lot of track time, which is a double-edged sword because it's hard on your car.
Right. No.
Right. Yeah. So like you kind of have to, you know, hold back a little bit sometimes.
I get it.
You know, even though.
When you're shagging cones at rallycross, do you get hit with rocks a lot? Like that seems like it would be more
It's all
perilous.
about where you stand.
It's all about where you stand. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there's especially, it depends on the venue, but like ours, there aren't many cones just because the track is dedicated, right? So you can see where it goes and everything. There's no like, it's not like you have a blank slate like a parking lot, right? So the number of cones are much, much fewer.
That's true.
But yeah, and there's more ground to cover also because it's a fairly large track, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're assigned a number of corners, there's a lot of like running to do.
You're getting your cardio. Yeah.
And the rallycross season in Montana is in the winter. So it can also be like really cold up on the high plains in central Montana. It can be really windy but like on the days we have races when it's snowing, it's just so much fun. It's just like Rally Sweden.
So fun.
You know, it's a really good time.
Right?
Yeah.
Like 40 miles an hour on dirt like has to be so much more of a cool experience than 40 miles an hour on pavement. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
different.
Fun.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
I just think about like our time up at Winter Park when we were doing all that snow drifting. Like we did a press day that was at Winter Park, and they did.
Oh yeah.
They had one of the like iced over parking lots, like snow covered parking lots,
right.
And they basically did a little autocross course for us in there and we got to do press cars up there.
Yeah.
And then we convinced them to let me take my car out on it after all the press cars.
Oh
left.
wow, that's great.
Yeah. So I was basically and we had a drone and we were just like doing like drifty videos for like an hour afterwards. It was awesome.
That's great. It was nice they let you do that.
It was.
They could have said no.
I think they wanted to, but we were just like, we're gonna go over here now.
Yeah.
Now that you guys are done.
Yeah, but they were like packing up, and like because it's a snowy parking lot, like it's not like they really like could shut us out.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One of the best driving experiences. Yeah, for sure. But like
So much fun.
being able to do that in like a stage fashion and
Yeah.
like competitive, like that's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. Do you have people on snowmobiles like in the winter, like to transport, like to shag cones? Yeah. Like
We actually usually like, especially in really cold days, we let people just drive their cars out.
Sure.
And like go to their stations like with their cars. They can leave it running with the heater on and stuff.
Yeah.
But when the snow's really deep, because the ranch out there, they usually provide like there's like a bulldozer and a bunch of four-wheelers and stuff, so that they can sort of help us maintain the course.
That's amazing.
And they blade the course, in between events, and
That's awesome.
Dude,
great.
that's
It's like
amazing.
professional level stuff. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, and it's like SCCA pricing. It's still really inexpensive.
Wow.
Yeah,
Aside from the broken cars.
aside from
Right.
True, but
That's
like
racing,
if you
right?
do it
Yeah,
right, right? Like, you're not going out there with something so weird that it's hard to find parts for,
Right.
right? Yeah. I think we get a Fiat 500L.
yeah, there you go.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
I was with you, and then I was not with you.
No? Yeah.
Hell.
Yeah. No, the X.
The X,
Yeah, the
the
X.
X.
Yeah, the weird.
the
Yeah.
X.
Right? Yeah, not
It was
the
like
L.
the L.
Kind of awkward. It's kind of awkward looking cars.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get the X.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm more with you on that.
Right?
Yeah. The Jeep Renegade twin.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I would love to do rally crosses sometime.
Yeah.
I would too. It would be super fun.
And you can also, there's the variety of cars are more also too, obviously. Like there's also a class for like side-by-sides.
Right.
And there's a guy who runs like a F-150 pickup truck. Like,
okay.
the only like regulation basically is that you're like, your car can't be taller than it is wide, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. So get the tropical.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
The F-250 Tropicana or whatever.
the Tropic Cruiser or whatever. Yeah. That would be something else.
Yeah. Huh. We've got to figure out how to rallycross sometime, you and me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just buy
You and
like
I.
a $1,500 car and
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be a million, like cast off Imprezas around here, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Right?
So the
B5
I can-
Audis,
have you ever done or seen the Georgetown, like the ice racing?
Yes. Yeah.
So there was a guy there who did he had a Subaru SX, not the SVX, but you remember the SX?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Those
Kind of weird
rule.
looking coupe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost looked like the Triumph, like X whatever. Right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I
was it?
think XS, right?
Or was it the XT?
Oh, it might be the
XT.
XT.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was the
XT.
XT. You're
Yeah.
right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had a neighbor that had one of these when I was a kid.
These like kind of like
Yeah.
futuristic. They got digital dash. And
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
weird like
The
like
weird
gunfighter
like, pistol grip shifter.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. The interior is wild. Like the steering wheel's really crazy.
Yeah, it's like a one spoker.
Oh, yeah.
Or two spoke. Yeah.
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 Oh, weird.
It's a pure 80s.
I got to ride in that on the thing, and it was just really
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, digital dash, right?
Yeah.
it's so 80s.
Yeah. Creaky plastics.
But yeah, so there would be that, and then like Josh and his TTRS were
yes.
in like the same class because it was just based on what tires you run
Yeah, right.
instead of anything else. So it was
on
like
the ice.
Yeah, and it was you had to have all wheel drive. So all the whole everyone was all wheel drive.
Makes sense.
Right.
And then you could have like all seasons, studless, studs, and bolts. And then
okay.
like that was the only.
Yeah.
And I think in the bolt class there was more like roll cage.
Yeah.
It was
sure.
all the custom Jeeps.
Yeah.
Huh. Boy, studless must be a challenge.
That's what I ran it a few times with my car.
Oh, okay. With the
R32.
R32, yeah.
I mean, you don't get that fast because it's a pretty small, tight course. So like in my car, I was getting up to like 30, 35,
Yeah.
and then there was a lot of handbrake.
Yeah.
This guy was his all time with the XT. He was full time all wheel drive. So he was just ramming it down into first and engine braking to get the tail out into every corner. It was wild. It seemed like I was in the passenger seat, like all my mechanical sympathy going like, oh my God, this doesn't seem right, but you're really fast. So you must know what you're doing.
Just like trailing transmission parts.
I was like, he was like, yeah, so this is how I do it. And I was like, I won't be doing that. That's not how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I will use the handbrake. I'm sure it's slower, but
it's a 6-speed in the R32. Mm-hmm. Is it the same transmission as on the like GTIs or is it different? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just the Haldex is the only.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was wild to go from that. And then we rode in one of the Jeeps.
Yeah.
And
they love it when people ride along in like the bolt class.
They won't. It's the
studded class.
Studded class. They won't take passengers in the bolt class.
Right.
But in the stud class, they would get up to like 65 miles an hour on the same course. Yeah. And you are like, it's again the thing with the truck, right? Like you're real high up off the ground. Yeah. And you're in this Jeep that's basically like a tube frame with a small block Chevy in it.
Yeah.
And you're looking, you can see the studded tires. And then they have axle brakes. Like they have brakes for each individual side. So they can basically like pivot the car on a dime. So you're approaching this corner and you see ice like 6 feet below you because you're so high up in the air. And you're like, well, that's just not going to happen. And then they pull the lever and then you're going a different direction. Yeah. And you're around it. It's insane.
I've said like I've been able to drive an insane amount of things. Like I'm very thankful for what I've been able to drive in my life. One of them is not an Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio. But anyway, but I would trade all of those drives for that ride in the studded class of the ice racing Jeep. Like, and there's some strategy that they do with it to like help the studless tires. So they'll run the studs first, and then the next day they'll run the studless class. So that like there is some kind of variation in the ice for
some texture.
That
makes sense.
Yeah, and by the end of the day in the studless class, it gets real bad. And I've been there. I was there one time where they had two courses, and they would swap them. Right, so they had like studded running on one, and then they would swap them so that way the ice would be smooth for the studless guys, and then choppier for the.
Yeah,
it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so let's talk bikes. So Ian and I don't really have much motorcycle stuff like in our history, right? Other than me telling you not to buy a motorcycle after you had a child. Yeah, right. But like, so let's talk. You know, like your experience with motorcycles, and give us your story and how you came into bikes.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, being just a gearhead like my entire life, like I've always been interested in motorcycles. I find them mechanically and aesthetically super interesting. Yeah. They're just, I like the simplicity. I like the just the whole sort of presence of lots of different kinds of motorcycles. You know, like an Italian motorcycle, a Ducati or something. It's just a beautiful thing, right? Sure, like a beautiful mechanical thing. And then like technology, that goes into some of these bikes. Like, Honda was making sport bikes in the 90s. It would rev like 19,000 RPM, right? Like F1 style, with these tiny little 250cc engines with these little thimble, pistons, right? And, so like the crazy technology has always been super interesting to me. But I never grew up in a family that had motorcycles. I never had like any kind of, exposure to them at all. Sure. But then I've always wanted to learn how to ride, basically. And then 2 years ago, I turned 45, And I was like, I should really learn how to ride a motorcycle. And I was just kind of playing with this idea. And finally, my boss at the magazine, he's like, why don't you just go take the class? We'll pay for it. You can write an article. It'll be great.
Snap.
So I signed up for the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course. And it was interesting. I thought I was going to be the only like middle-aged,
right?
You know, like
you thought you were going to be the only one going through a midlife crisis at the motorcycle class.
Yeah, and it was literally 12 like dudes, like all in our 40s, like
copy
because
paste.
Because here's the thing: is that like people in their 40s go take the class to learn to ride a bike.
Yes.
If you're in your 20s, you just buy a motorcycle and then you figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is my colleague at the magazine. He does most of our like motorcycle coverage. I should say the magazine is Overland Journal, adventure travel, like 4-wheel drive, moto magazine. And he told me, he's like, yeah, now's the time to learn. Like you have a sense of your own mortality. You like have kind of understand
self-preservation.
Like, right.
Consequences.
Exactly. So I took the course. There was one girl in the course. I think she was 17 or 16 maybe.
Okay.
And she was like, my dad is making me be here.
Oh, wow.
and then, 11 like 40-year-old, hopeless cases.
I didn't. Yeah.
So we did the MSF. And at the time I was kind of like, I'm going to learn how to ride a motorcycle, but I didn't know if I was going to be a motorcyclist, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I would like it so much that I would like buy a motorcycle, but like 2 weeks after I took the class, I bought a motorcycle. And I bought like a cheap one, like it was a 99 Kawasaki KLR 650, which is kind of like a dual sport, on-road, off-road kind of middle ground between a motocross bike and a tall street bike. It was great, carbureted, really simple, but, had been around the block. So inevitably when I dumped it on the ground a number of times, didn't really matter.
Right.
But yeah, in fact, the one on the far left or that one too, that's the exact color of mine. It was a great beginner bike. It was like pretty low standover height. So felt really confident off-road.
Gotcha.
Because, I'm really curious about like motorcycle touring, I want to sort of get into that aspect of it. And so it was a great bike to sort of learn some of the basics of like riding off-road. And then, so I've just been riding more and more and more. And I love it. It's honestly one of the best things I've done in midlife.
Okay.
It seems like it'd be a good add-on to the overlanding thing, right? That you can just have a bike with you on the back of the Land Rover and then go adventure from your base camp. Or whatever,
exactly.
Right?
A lot of people do that now. And it's fairly common. And there's a lot of really cool, like interesting, sort of lightweight, dual sports motorcycles on the market right now that are like easy to transport. And, pretty capable and can go highway speeds, that kind of thing. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool bikes out there. And it's just, there's just something about the process and the experience of riding a motorcycle that's unlike, anything else. You just have to be so engaged and aware and in the moment, right? You can't do anything else or think about anything else, other than when you're like riding your motorcycle. That's what you have to be doing in the moment, right? So there's like no distraction, there's no anything. And, having that experience is really amazing, right? And it's, in some ways it's like driving a race car, right? Yeah. Where like all of your sensors are in play, all of your concentration is in play, and it's just a really, like helpful thing just for your mental health and for your, just like your outlook on the world. And it's so that like learning that skill and practicing that skill like over and over and over is really rewarding, just like, and then like the mechanical aspects of it, just really fun too. They're easy to work on. And it's really, like I said, it's one of the best things I've done in the last few years.
That's amazing.
It's very tempting. I've always wanted to, I've always wanted like, I've never really had much appeal. Like I've never really thought about off-road motorcycling, but like the idea of having something small to putter around town in is like really appealing. Like something cool and stylish to ride around town, Like I've always wanted one of those, but.
And then, you can own like the the range of types of motorcycles, and they don't take up much room.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The same thing with bicycles. The right number is
Yeah.
N+1.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Where can I put another one? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 I've got room up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is my off-road. This is my overlanding overnight bike. This
Yes.
is my street bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This is my commuter. Right? Yeah.
But yeah, so I wrote a long article about learning how to ride, just sort of like, midlife crisis.
No, that's great. Yeah. We'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really a good thing. And so the bike I have now is I like older motorcycles. I kind of gravitate
Sure.
the way I gravitate to older cars, and so I've got a 2003 BMW F650 GS.
Okay.
Which
It's
is
like a adventure bike style?
Yeah, it's a smaller adventure bike.
What was it again? It was
a 03
okay.
BMW F650
F650. Okay.
GS.
GS.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh God, I can't type.
GS is short for German. It's Geländestrasse.
Geländestrasse, okay.
Off-road, on-road. Basically.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
It's got a little single cylinder motor, but it's got enough power that it'll go 80, 85 miles an hour. No issues.
A single cylinder motor.
Yeah.
What?
It's about 55 horsepower, I think.
Whoa.
It's overhead cam, 4 valves. It's a pretty sophisticated little motor.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yep.
Like RPM range?
I think red line is like 9,000.
Okay.
Which is pretty typical for middle displacement, like single cylinders.
Wow. I never knew single cylinder motorcycles were a thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 Huh. Okay. We're all learning today.
That KLR 650 that I had is a single cylinder as well.
Oh, okay.
A little bit more basic in its construction, but this bike is fuel injected.
That's
nice.
Yeah.
And they BMW motorcycles in general have a reputation for just absolute bulletproof.
Yes.
Reliably to run forever. And I got it for a song. Some guy was selling it and wasn't running. Typical thing. Pulled it out of his garage, and I pulled 6 mouse nests out of the airbox.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Because it would have been sitting under a carport or whatever for years, and new battery, new air filter, spark plug, and it just started.
Really?
Immediately, just boop, just started.
Oh my God.
Hell yes.
Yeah. And
Just like a service.
Yeah,
And it was fine.
Basically, yeah. But new tires, new brakes, and
That's amazing.
did a service on the fork, and it's pretty much
Okay.
that's it.
That's wild.
And the forks are pretty similar to mountain bike forks, oil filled hydraulic.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so
open cartridge kind of
bleed
forks.
procedure, basic. You can do all this yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Serviceable, seal replacement kits,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All you need really is a bench vise.
Yeah.
Because those forks pull out of the head, and on the BMW forks, on these bikes, changing the oil is really easy. You have a little drain plug on the bottom. Just
Oh my
drain
God.
it out, and then you just fill it from the top. And so even when you don't need to replace the seals, for example, you can do the service and the suspension now is a little bit more sophisticated. It's got better damping characteristics and it's more progressive and that kind of stuff. These are fairly basic, suspension setups, but the shock on this bike is adjustable for preload and all different kinds of also rebound is also adjustable. And that's straight from the factory. So
Is there an internal spring on most of those?
yes, on the forks.
Okay.
Yeah, have an internal spring.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Super cool.
Right?
Yeah. And it's just super basic. And I think for long-term, motorcycle travel, if you're doing adventure biking stuff, that's kind of what you want. Stuff you can fix with your own tools and, simple stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause the numbers, I got to think the numbers of these that exist are a lot smaller than with a car where you can go to the junkyard and find parts.
Right.
The parts are harder to find, but you're going to save money on labor because they're a lot easier to work on.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
You can carry a really basic toolkit on these things, and you can disassemble the entire bike essentially.
Okay.
They're a lot of the bikes are engineered that way actually. So Royal Enfield is a growing brand right now, and they engineer their bikes specifically to like be serviced with just a very basic set of hand tools.
A toolkit from the 1950s.
Yeah. And so like all the fasteners are the same size, and same type and like all that kind of stuff.
God,
right. So
I
it just
love that
makes
stuff.
it really
And they're really
easy
cool looking bikes.
Yeah, they're
but they're
really
expensive, right?
No, the Royal Enfields are quite inexpensive actually.
Oh, okay.
They're made in India.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't realize they were made in India now.
Yep, a lot of bike manufacturers are making bikes in India.
Interesting.
BMW
I mean, that makes sense.
is, a number of them are, but Royal Enfield is a Indian motorcycle company, and they've just been expanding their lineup.
Oh, wow.
Really
Okay.
cool street bikes, but
Yeah.
they've got a killer adventure bike right now called the Himalayan 450. It's really neat. But then they do this kind of like vintage style,
like
bikes
club
and
racer
and-
stuff.
This is more up my alley.
Yeah,
I
cafe
could
racer
see
style.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a backpack full of LPs. Like,
Yeah, totally right.
100%.
Yeah. Leather.
Like these, I've always loved these, and I've always loved the little the Ducati monsters, like
those
the
are
smaller
cool.
ones, like the 650s
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I always thought those were super cool looking.
But you can get a quite nice brand new Royal Enfield motorcycle with a warranty for like $5,000.
Just don't tell me these things.
Yeah, they're not that expensive.
You have to save up for an RXLS swap.
I do.
Okay?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
That's going to be the thing that keeps you from buying a motorcycle.
I know.
Hopefully.
I need to. Yeah, I need to do something. I either need to put money into my car to get it up to snuff, or do something else.
Yeah.
So I think do something else might be it.
Yeah, I'm going to get in the way of enabling here. Yeah. Yes, yeah. You can come on the show, but you can't tell Ian what to buy. Yeah. That's my job.
Don't talk him into bad decisions. He makes enough of those on his own.
Yeah.
And then like the used motorcycle market is great because like oftentimes people buy bikes brand new and then they decide they're not motorcyclists.
Right.
Sure.
Or they have a kid and whatever. And and motorcycles depreciate worse than cars do, So, the used market is great because you can get really interesting and cool stuff for not much money. Like I would never buy like a brand new motorcycle. I don't think, like from a dealer, because the depreciation curve on them is steep and fast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But
everybody wants a BMW bike for adventuring. I mean, like I don't know anything about motorcycles, but like you just know that BMWs and like adventure, overland, like motorcycle stuff, like touring.
It's definitely the hottest segment in motorcycles in general right now. So like all the manufacturers have got at least one all the major manufacturers have at least like one like large adventure touring bike and usually like a middleweight, kind of a smaller one.
Okay.
And so like Honda is like the Africa Twin is the big one, and then the Transalp is the smaller one. And Yamaha's the Tenor A, and they have like a large displacement and like a smaller displacement.
Gotcha.
And BMW, like their big GS is a 1300, and it is a big, super sophisticated, full of electronics, really sophisticated motorcycle, and it's also like $22,000. And Ducati's got a really big adventure bike now, the Desert X. I mean, these are just really like, and it's the hottest segment right now for sure because the bikes are comfortable, they're upright, they're easy to they're like they handle well, super powerful. So you're not hunched over on a sport bike, but most of them now have so much sophisticated technology and power that like they can keep up with sports bikes in a lot of contexts. So it's definitely the hottest segment in motorcycling right now. Yeah.
It's so funny how cyclical that always is too. Cause like, I remember my grandpa rode motorcycles and he had it was like a Kawasaki. It was a K1, I think. It was like it was a really fast bike in the day, but it was like a big bike. And it was like when the sport bikes were first kind of coming out and becoming a real thing. But this big, huge kind of like touring bike was like the fastest bike you could buy at the time still.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, it seems like it's like coming full circle a little bit. And then like 10 years ago, it was all cafe racer. Redos, right? Was like the big thing.
Yeah. But for me, like I'm a fairly slight guy. Like these big adventure like bikes they weigh like 650 pounds.
Yeah, you can't pick it up.
Like if you fall over, like you need to be riding with other people, because you're not going to pick it up by yourself.
Isn't that the whole reason you want to go adventuring? Is because you
want to get away from people?
Friends? Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Huh. That's really cool, Steve. Yeah.
Well, Dave's gonna buy a motorcycle now.
Yep.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with the mountain bikes. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. It's one of those things. Like you're just always enamored with the technology, and then you add like the ability for like it to be so self-sufficient with the vehicle, right? Like with the motorcycle, like that's all just super attractive to me. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you tell me the fasteners are all the same size. Oh, girl! Like, come on, hello.
Yeah, right. It's like
Humming.
It's great.
Luca.
It's a great engineering decision, right? I mean,
right.
especially like, these bikes are mostly sold in India.
Yeah.
Right. So people need to service them like in the field with like very basic tools. And, so like that market demands that kind of like simplicity.
Sure.
Right. And so, not going to change it for like overseas markets. And it just, so like as DIY type people, we benefit from that kind of, that kind of thing.
Now hear me out. What if we did like mid 90s GM and we just like, some of the bolts are SAE and some of them are metric.
Right.
You figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes next to each other. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I paint marker on the Lemons car, like what the bolt size is.
Oh,
next
yeah, that's
to
a good
it.
idea.
An ECU and a distributor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why not?
Yes. Yeah. Oh God.
What a
Yeah.
nightmare.
Like you go from like the stacks of Milwaukee pack outs to like just like like a tool roll essentially.
Yeah.
For that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like I'm familiar with that kind of mindset from like I love Surly bicycles, right?
Yeah,
Surly's
sure.
been making stuff forever, right? Like good old steel bicycles. But they make a long haul trucker that's really popular with the bike packing community.
Yes,
right?
I'm familiar with that bike. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got an editor at the magazine who does bike packing specifically.
Okay.
That's his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. They make it with like cable actuated brakes because it's easier to find something to be a cable, right, than it is to like bleed a hydraulic brake out, wherever you are. And they do, they have a version with 26-inch wheels, which is just like the universal standard instead of like road 700C tires, right? Yeah. Like that, those are the decisions that I like, right?
And if you're if you're pedaling your bicycle across Tanzania or whatever, like, these are the kinds of things that like you got to take into account. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think we have time to talk about your thoughts on the Ineos Grandeur. Yeah.
Oh, the Grenadier.
Grenadier.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. It's a purpose-built overland vehicle.
Yeah, I got to mess around with one. Remember, I went to that event where a pre-production one. I just got to like monkey bars around inside of it. Yeah,
I forgot about that.
It has a BMW 6-cylinder turbo engine.
Correct. BMW transmission.
BMW transmission. Yeah.
BMW electronics mostly.
Yeah.
I see you with a skeptical look on
no, I'm wondering like about in like the overlanding community, like what the kind of the interplay is between like these sorts of things and the people who like build an overland vehicle themselves. Like, is that a big, I'm guessing that's a big kind of like class divide within the community. And like, do they like interact with each other? And what does that look
with
like?
each other?
Yeah, for sure. The community is usually, for the most part, there's not a lot of gatekeeping. Partly because like the definition of like what it means to be an overlander and how you travel and so on and so forth is it's a pretty big tent. It's a big tent.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
So sorry about that. You can kick me out now.
Your fee is in half now.
But and so there's just like any kind of enterprise, where people are using disposable income to, have a hobby,
right?
Like the spectrum is huge. And so on one end, you've got $1 million, like long distance travel, purpose built rigs, like
car trucks,
like Earth Roamer, right? Like, a basic Earth Roamer is like a 1.2, and they're built bespoke, obviously at that price level. And then whatever, people get on $1,000 Kawasaki motorcycles and put a tent on the back and do that, right? And then everything in between, right? And so obviously the Ineos the Grenadier and now the Quartermaster, the pickup, which was pretty neat. They're kind of, they're in the high end, what is it, 80,
somewhere in there. Yeah.
By the time you option them out. But they've been like super popular in the overlanding world just because they are like built with, the idea of you're going to travel in this truck long term. So like it has very high payload.
Oh,
right.
okay.
So like payload is often a limitation. Like if you're going to build out like a Tacoma or a Gladiator or, like a Nissan Frontier, it's a terrible payload. Right.
Oh, okay.
Overlanding is often all about the stuff, right? So like, and you just want to load up with all your crap, right?
Yeah.
And so like, if you put like a family in there, you're like way over GVW, right? And so like payload capacity on these things is very high, right? It has solid axles. It has like triple lockers. That has all these like, things that are desirable, like off the showroom floor. Stuff, modifications that you would probably make anyway if you're buying a different truck, right? And fairly simple interior with a lot of like physical switch gear, that kind of thing. Supposedly like easy like field serviceability. That's a little bit of a question. It's a brand new company, like from the ground up company.
Yeah.
It's not like it's.
But they're using mostly off the shelf stuff,
correct?
Because usually like BMW.
But the off the shelf stuff is BMW stuff,
right? Yeah,
right.
right. Yeah, BMW automotive stuff, not BMW bicycle.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So, time will tell on this stuff. Some of the critiques I've seen a lot, and my boss, Scott Brady, he's been driving one of these for a couple of years now. Like he got one of the early launch editions from Ineos. Like they just kind of just loaned it to him. And the steering is weird. Like apparently people are saying like it doesn't have very good like return to center. Because it's not a rack. It's like recirculating ball, like old style.
Oh yeah,
like
that's
recirculating,
right.
or ball steering. And so it has like kind of lousy centering characteristics.
Yeah.
It has like strange like steering feel. But otherwise, it's just straight off the lot, right? You can just and
so is it like it's like a body on frame,
solid axle, and Scott, he drove one from South Africa to Ethiopia recently. He just drove all the way across Africa, didn't have a single problem like the whole time.
Okay,
which is pretty good for like a brand new car company.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I think they'll sell pretty well. Obviously, right now the dealer network is fairly slim, that kind of thing, but.
Do they have service agreements with BMW for that stuff, or like can you bring that to?
That's a really good question.
Can you bring it to a BMW dealership?
I don't know. That's a very good question.
Or is it going to be like
we'll fly in another expert?
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah,
but like say for example at Overland Expo, which is a big trade show for the industry. This past year, 2024, it was like the darling of the show. So like everyone who was building like accessories and different kinds of like upgrades and so on and so forth were featuring Ineos trucks
on the Ineos. Okay,
yeah. Whereas like the year prior, it was the Tacoma,
right?
The brand new because the brand new Tacoma came out in 23, right?
Right.
And like Overland spec, the Trail Hunter spec, right, is like sort of a lot of accessories and upgrades from Toyota. They're like specifically for, for like the Overland community. In fact, they debuted the Tacoma at Overland Expo in 23 for the public.
Oh, okay.
Like that's how mainstream it's becoming. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
And, lots of other manufacturers doing this too, right?
Sure.
With like Honda, like you can get a Pilot Trail Sport, right? And it's got ATs and some underbody protection and a little bit of like,
but not an upgraded like, capacity,
like or axle, like the axles aren't any better, like whatever, like that kind of stuff. But but those are like Subaru Wilderness editions, right? And those are actually fairly legit. Like a Crosstrek Wilderness is like 9 inches of ground clearance. They're like pretty good. Crawl control, like all kinds of like legit upgrades.
Ground clearance is a distance most vehicles have from their bellies to the ground.
And you want that why? But then how do you make great friends with your mechanic who's replacing oil pans every 10 weeks?
I could barely get a toe underneath the Nuggets front bumper.
That's pretty low. It's a little low. Yeah. Why do you think I won't rallycross?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A Barth
You're
front
just high
bumpers are
centered.
nice. Yeah. Just picture that thing rolling down the side of a hill.
But how cute it would be.
It would be adorable.
It just squeaks all the way down. Squeak, 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 like a dog toy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we definitely want to respect your time, and we really appreciate you coming on to guest and apparently us footing the bill to fly you in.
Yeah.
So news to me. Thanks, Ian.
that.
Yeah. We're gonna need a credit card to get him home.
Oh, he's on Spirit Airlines going over. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spirit Freight.
Yes. Yeah. So tell folks where they can find all your stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm the associate editor for Overland Journal and Expedition Portal. So expeditionportal.com. I think we're celebrating 20 years this year.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
It's still a very active forum. If you guys remember what forums were like.
I'd say bring him back.
Yeah.
Like
Still,
everything else has not worked well.
it's So Overland Journal is the magazine. It's printed 5 times a year. It's a big, like, fancy coffee-table magazine.
That's beautiful.
We really focus on adventure travel and a lot of gear reviews, 4x4 stuff. But and you can find me there. I got off Instagram, but I am on Blue Sky. I think it's just Steve Edwards on Blue Sky.
Nice.
Look me up there, and got a pretty good community going there, I think, for car people. So better even than it was on Twitter, I think.
I agree. Yeah, it is nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so good that like the whole like just weird car Twitter like forklifted themselves over to Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Dave, I think we done did a car show.
We did. Yeah.
People want to send us license plates or other suggestions for other experts we can fly in from all over the world.
Yeah.
720-515-1391.
Yes.
apexadjacent at Gmail. We're on Blue Sky as well.
Yes.
Everybody, thank you. We love you. Goodbye.